Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I'm John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. Good topic for you today. Let's do it. What are some of the creepiest things that have happened to you overnight? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe.
I work at a cafe in downtown. Quite a few homeless shelters in range and a huge drug problem. One day I'm working behind the bar and this redhead kid, probably in his early 20s, sits down in our seating area and starts chanting shit under his breath. After a minute or two, he starts moving his hands around like he's casting a spell. He then gets up, starts yelling and disturbing everyone. I walk over to him and tell him he needs to leave for the day. Dude looks me straight in the eye and says, "This is all a giant game. I'll fucking kill you with one finger." At this point, whatever. I get death threats a lot down here, no biggie. Shoo him on his way, and that's that. Fast forward to when you're closing up around 9 p.m. Not technically night shift, but it gets dark up here, so it counts. I lock the doors and start heading to the parking garage my car is in. It's probably about 6 blocks away, no big deal. Winter up here is insanely dark, so it's already pretty creepy in downtown. About a block or two of walking and I hear this hissing noise. I freak the fuck out because I can't see anyone around. I pick up the pace a bit, then I hear hurried footsteps in the snow behind me. Bad. I booked it to the staircase for the garage because I wasn't going to wait for the elevator. I'm about a staircase up and I hear the door I just went through slam shut. I finally make it to my car and get in as fast as possible. I look around and lo and behold, there's the redhead from earlier. Only this time he's fucking furious. He sees me in my car and books it full speed and starts hitting my window screaming, "I'm gonna kill you." I door checked him and drove away. Called the cops the next morning and they found the dude. Apparently he thinks he's in the Illuminati and completely corroborated my story to the police. Small jail time and one restraining order later, never seen him again. Shit like this happens a lot. I used to work at a pub that was 2 miles from my house. My shift ended at about 11 one night. I stayed there for a couple of drinks, then started walking home. Now, this had been an exceptional night for me, tip-wise, and I had close to $400 in cash on me at the time. Between the pub and my house was exactly one streetlight about a quarter mile from the pub. The rest of the walk was in complete darkness. This was a dark night, too. It was close to the new moon and cloudy to boot, so it was almost pitch black. Now, I live out in the boonies, so there isn't much light pollution to help out. Not long after I leave the pub, a car slowly drives by me. About a quarter mile down the road, the car slows to a stop and it just sits there. I stop walking and watch the car. It sits for a few minutes, then slowly drives away. A couple of minutes later, the same car comes slowly driving back by me in the opposite lane. It gets by me, drives a bit down the road, and slows to a stop again. Then it does a U-turn and starts creeping back down the road toward me with the lights off. At this point, I'm being terrified. I don't have a cell phone at the time. There's no one around to see what's going on. The car is in between me and the pub, so I can't get back to the safety there. My house is still about 1.5 miles away. No way I can quickly escape there. I quickly run off the road into the woods and duck down behind a bush. I watch for the car, but it's too dark to see it with the lights off and bushes and trees and undergrowth between me and the road. I sit there for about 10 minutes, but I don't see or hear anything. I'm about to make my way back to the road when I hear car doors closing. Now I'm really panicking. It feels like my chest is about to explode. The hairs on the back of my neck are standing up. I keep imagining someone sneaking up behind me. I stay hidden and hope to God whoever it is doesn't find me. I don't know how long I stay there, but I eventually hear car doors again, then cars passing by. I give it a couple of minutes, then ease back to the road. When I see it's clear, I haul ass back to the pub and let my boss know what happened. He said then and there that I'm never to walk home at night again. Either him or his brother or his mom will give me a lift home. When the other servers and kitchen staff hear what happened, they all say the same thing. Never been that terrified before. I used to work overnight shifts at a restaurant with a drive-thru that I was also in charge of. There was a bird who cooed into the drive-thru speaker and into my headset that kept scaring the shit out of me until I finally realized what it was. I worked at Walmart overnight for a while. Every single Friday night, without fail, this old woman with 2 children would come in around 10 and 11. She was obnoxiously loud as she shopped. She grabbed a bunch of different things and stuffed it all in her cart, a few times asking one of our employees to help her grab something. Every Friday night, it was the same thing. Her talking voice was her yelling and stayed in the store sometimes until 5 a.m. I worked 10 to 7. She grabbed a cart full of stuff, which seemed like it was from every section of the store. She would do this with her 2 girls, and the weirdest part wasn't even that. It was the fact that she would leave her cart somewhere and walk out with nothing. Spent hours in the store grabbing a bunch of shit with her 2 kids, and walked out without anything every Friday. I never figured out why. It's not creepy scary, it's more like creepy weird. There was also a creepy sad time when this woman was shopping and she was obviously up on drugs. Her face showed it. She was basically unresponsive to anyone or anything as she walked through the store. I only saw her once walking by with her kid. He was about 7, saying things like, "Hey, can you hear me? It's me. Why aren't you talking to me?" Stuff like that. Really sad. But yes, those are my overnight stories. I don't work there anymore. I work in the ER and I frequently work overnight shifts. One night, I was sitting at the front desk by myself and I heard the front doors open but nobody walks in. So I get up to go see what the hell is going on or if anyone needs help. I go into the vestibule as it's empty and I want to see if anybody is outside. Nobody's there. Not even any vehicles. At this point, I shrug it off, but then I look down and see a massive pool of blood, like trauma level 1 massive. I immediately called the nurses to come up and we all scout out the area. We didn't find anyone, and to this day I wonder if that person survived. Just wish I could have helped. Very creepy experience. I used to work overnight phone support for enterprise customers, specifically those in APAC. Frankly, our market segment there was very small. On average, each person working got 3 to 5 calls a week. The office building we were in used to be a shipping receiving warehouse and had horrendous sodium vapor halogens. So we petitioned to have the lights turned out at night. This one evening, I was watching Frailty with headphones while waiting for my next call. I remember it being a very tense moment in the movie, and I heard a growling over my shoulder. I quickly checked, nothing there, chalked it up to the movie. A couple of minutes later, I hear the growling again. It's not a dog, it's not the movie. I tap one of my coworkers and ask if they hear it too. He does, so we start searching. I end up in the far corner of the cubicle farm area, and I hear the growling again, and it's right behind me. I turn around and there's nothing there. The growling is right in front of me. I peek into the large manager's cube, and there's the growling. It's the security guard asleep under the desk. This jackass picked the only section of the building that had people staffed overnight, and the only section that required badged entry. The next morning on my way out of the building, I told the security guard that there were some odd noises coming from a manager's cube. He went pale and said, "I'll have to add that to my report." I work night shifts at a gas station. During weekdays, it's pretty quiet. It's usually only the truckers and taxi drivers who pop by for coffee and the sandwiches we have. But one night I was talking shit with one of the cab drivers. A cab drives into the lot, parks, and it sits with its floodlights on, bright, aimed toward the glass front. Kind of weird, but maybe the guy forgot what light he got on. It happens. The guy finally enters after maybe 5 minutes of flooding the store, part with light, and it's obvious he's on something. He's jittery, wide-eyed, looks disheveled, paces around before he buys a coffee, and stares intensely at me throughout the purchase. Worth mentioning, I'm a 5'2" chick with the opposite of a resting bitch face. I smile friendly to everybody. But I work alone for 8 hours in the dead of night. Eerie guy pays for his coffee without a single word, despite my friendly chattiness, so I continue talking with the cab driver, but I still feel this guy staring at me. It was very intense and unsettling. Cab guy probably notices this and leans on the counter and slides his card over, taking a bit of a hushed that I should call when I get off work if this guy sticks around because he's getting creepy vibes from him. Cab guy was right. This guy stuck around the shop for about an hour till closing, staring at me clean up, until some truckers arrived. Then he left and sat in his car, parked up against the window, staring until closing time. I called the cab guy, and he gave me a free ride home. He later told me this weirdo has been driving behind his taxi with his lights on full power.
Your cab driver friend was a good dude. To be able to come back and do that to keep you safe was right. Whether you got a feeling, he got a feeling, or that guy just presented to be exactly what he was, glad things worked out and that you took countermeasures after, so scary out there. Be safe.
Worked night shift at an amusement park. I was working during the winter while the park was closed for the season, and I was one or two people in the entire park, and the other was right next to me. We were driving around and the phone started ringing on like every ride and in every building we drove by. And I don't mean all at the same time either, but it was like the ringing phones were following us. If it was some sort of prank, it was pretty impressive, because each phone had a different number, and we're talking like 25 to 30 phones were ringing. Creepy as hell. I'm an aircraft maintainer in the Air Force, and I have been on night shift pretty much my whole career. There's a form of servicing we have to do on the aircraft called LOXing, which is where you service the aircraft with liquid oxygen for the pilots. This job is dangerous, so you're the only one allowed in the vicinity of the plane, and you're wearing a bunch of gear. I had to do a LOX job on the other side of the ramp for everyone else, essentially away from everyone. I finished my LOX job and hopped on the aircraft to take down the numbers for the forms. In the process of me putting power on, I heard this horrific pshhh happen from what felt like every corner of the plane. When you're alone in the dark in a large dark plane, all you really can do is panic. Turns out the shutoff valve where I was servicing had frozen itself open, and I proceeded to piss liquid oxygen everywhere. So not only did I have to change my pants, I also had to redo the job. Not my story, but my father's. He was a paramedic and got called out one night to pick up a guy who was found dead in his truck. Dude was apparently there a while before rigor mortis set in. To make things creepier, it was apparently in a larger thunderstorm. They get the dude out and manage to straighten all the limbs out well enough to put the dead guy on the stretcher. It's like 3 a.m., and the mortician couldn't get to the morgue until 4. They opt to drive around waiting instead of posting up at the station. About 15 minutes into driving, the dude apparently sits straight up and lets out a large moan. Dude was still dead, but scares the crap out of everyone. Later, my dad figured out when you straighten out a rigored body, gases shift and cause weird things. This isn't fair because I work night shift in a psych facility. Basically, I've seen a lot of things working at night. From people coming in high and psychotic to people huddling naked in the corner of a room whispering. Scariest thing I've ever seen was a patient coming out of the nurse's station and saying someone is outside of their window looking in. From admission, they had been experiencing pretty strong hallucinations, so we assumed this was another one. To provide some ease, we went into the room to verify that there was no one there and provide them some relief and comfort. We have removable draw curtains in rooms, and they were shut. Walked up to it and asked if it was this window. Patient told us that it was. Drew it open and had quite possibly the biggest scare of my life. There was somebody there, wide-eyed and staring right back at us through the window. He ran off when we saw him, and we ended up calling the police as well as security. They never found the guy, and we never saw him again. Still creeps me out to this day. Used to work night shift at Toys R Us. At night they would turn half the lights off to save on power, and the girls' toy section, oh god, the girls' toy section at night was so creepy. You're carrying a box down the aisle, and it's perfectly silent. Then the motion sensors on the dolls will catch your movement, and all at once, the toys will turn and follow you with their lifeless eyes before screaming or laughing or crying in that horrible electronic box way, flailing about. I'm a fully grown 6'4", 300-pound, hairy-ass man, and I have never noped my way out as fast as getting away from that section at night. Not exactly night shift, but as a bartender, I'm usually heading home around 2 to 4 a.m. On a slow Monday night, we were about to close the restaurant when a seemingly homeless woman walked into the bar. Working in a city, we're used to vagrants making their way into the bar, so kicking her out would be easy. My manager yelled at her, "Hey, sorry, we're closing up. We won't be able to serve you. You'll have to leave." She kept walking slowly and silently toward the bar, staring straight ahead with a blank face. As she walked closer, we realized she looked unusual for a homeless woman. Her skin was gray. I've never seen a skin color like hers in my life. It wasn't dirty or old or tanned. It was a very light gray that was light with almost no wrinkles. She almost had a tattoo of 4 lines on her face. They all started at one point in the center of her chin, then continued down her neck in a ray-like pattern. She also had no shoes on. Once she reached the bar, she went to pull out a chair when my manager yelled again, "Hey, we're closing up. Also, you can't be in here without shoes on. You need to leave now." She continued to sit down, then turned her head slowly to me. Locking eyes with me, she said, "I like you." At this point, my finger was on the bar panic button. Most bars have them so they can get immediate police response. Our bouncer finally made his way over and put his hand on her shoulder to ask her to leave. The minute he touched her, she broke out into this extremely loud, high-pitched, manic scream. It was like a scream out of a horror movie. What made it creepier, the whole time she was screaming, she was looking at me dead in the eyes without blinking. She wasn't moving, so my bouncer went to forcibly remove her from the bar. I pushed the panic button and watched my bouncer pull away this woman as she was screaming uncontrollably, all while staring straight at me. The police came fairly quickly and took the woman away. To this day, that is still the creepiest night I've ever had at work. When I was in Afghanistan, we were in the mountains right on the Pakistani border. The first few months of the deployment were pretty hairy, but as soon as winter rolled around and the fighting season dried up, things got really quiet. Night shift went from, when are we going to get hit, to, what kind of weird shit am I going to witness tonight? I think it was February or so, and I was out on guard in the north facing Machine Gun Shack. We all had NVGs and NODs. Since it was pitch black, we always wore them on night shift. While I was looking out into the mountains, when I see what looked like a dude come crawling out from behind a boulder up the hill about 100 meters. Being February, we hadn't gotten hit in almost a month because there was 2 feet of snow on the ground and the temps were hovering right around 0. So the Taliban chucked deuce back to Pakistan and left us alone for the cold months. Now this dude was on all fours like a fucking animal, just sitting there, half behind a boulder, seemingly staring into my soul. So I pointed the machine gun at him and turned on the visible laser. Put the laser right on his nose, didn't get a reaction, nothing. Dude just stared at me. So at this point, I'm getting a little freaked out. I'd been blown up, shot at, almost RPG'd, and now some local playing, games. I radioed into our TOC, Tactical Operations Center, that there was an unarmed local staring at me on the north post, and I either wanted someone to clear me to wax him, or come out and look at what I'm seeing. E5 on the radio tells me he's sending a private out to babysit me. Fucking dick. Dude comes out, looks up the hill at this dude and promptly nopes out. Goes back to the TOC and tells the E5 that there really was a dude just staring at us in the mountain. So the E5 comes up to the shack and I point the dude out. I shit you not. As soon as the E5 gets eyes on the local, the dude jumps up, hops up on the boulder, and starts screaming like somebody just dipped him in boiling water. Guard tower at the east corner can now also see the guy, and as soon as the crazy local started howling, East Shack loosed about a 30-round burst of 7.62 over his head. That shit is loud when it's dead quiet. Crazy guy jumps off the rock and runs down the mountain screaming the whole way. Dead quiet the rest of the night. But the commander upped security to 50%, meaning half the dudes on our outpost had to pull security the rest of the night. The running joke for the rest of the winter was to be on the lookout for a mind-controlled experiment that the CIA lost track of. Freaked me the ever-loving out. Good for a story, though. About 10 years ago, I was an apprentice for a plumber that was contracted with a popular fitness chain. One night I was doing pool maintenance alone, like literally the only one in the entire building. Generally, I would shock the water with liquid bromine and throw a pool floater with a chlorine tablet in it. Well, this particular night I was out of liquid bromine, so I grabbed a solid bromine tablet and a pool floater. I carved away at the tablet with a knife so it would fit. They are purposely shaped to not fit for reasons I'll explain later. I then had the idea to jam a chlorine tablet, oh boy.
on top of it to save me the time of prepping another floater and fishing it out later. I chuck the thing into the pool and head off to change a membrane in the leaky bathroom sink. As I'm unscrewing the faucet, I hear a high-pitched scream. It sounds like a child is screaming their lungs out. It's coming from the pool room. I'm frantic. I start running toward it, thinking I'm going to save a child. As I'm about to round the corner, the screams turn into a very low-pitched hum, almost demonic in nature. I stop. What the f*** is all I'm thinking? I peek around the corner and bang! The pool floater explodes, yeah. Turns out you can't mix bromine and chlorine in their dry forms. It's true. The scream was the pressure buildup escaping out of one of the pool floater's holes, and I assume the change in pitch was from it melting. I ended up needing a respirator in order to go fish out the pool floater and open all the doors. My 1-hour job turned into an 8-hour nightmare. I used to work the overnight shift at a group home for children. It was a creepy old Victorian house, and it certainly had a history as a couple children had passed away there over 50 years it was open. One night around 3 a.m., all of a sudden, a tissue box went flying off of the TV into the staff room. No apparent cause. I sat there shaking for a minute and then thought to go check on the kid in the room on the other side of the wall. As I went to the door, the kid fell out of bed all of a sudden and immediately woke up. He looked at me and said, "Did you see it?" That's what's been getting me. The dark thing. I didn't work too many overnights after that. Currently on a night shift and shitting my pants. We have some travelers who moved into our business park around 6 months ago. I'm the only guy in the office and we have a lot of equipment in here. I always shut all the blinds and just have the lights above my desk on. Basically a week or two after these travelers moved onto our park, I saw shadows passing the windows because there are street lamps outside and the office is dark. Anyway, I saw these shadows and I picked up my phone ready to call the police, anyone who would save me if shit got weird. Anyway, as I picked up the phone, I got this weird feeling I was being watched. So I glanced over my shoulder and the blinds behind me were open. There was a guy stood there with his hands cupped around the window so he could see in. I jumped out of my fucking skin. He just kept looking at me with the biggest, weirdest grin on his face. I pretended to start talking on the phone straight away, and he quickly disappeared. I got to work tonight for the first shift on my own, and the travelers are back. I'm dreading something similar happens. My brother moved in with me a few months ago and got a job doing night shift custodial work at a nearby high school. His workday starts at 10 p.m., and fortunately for him, it's close enough to walk, because he gets off shift about 20 minutes after I have to leave for work in the morning, and he doesn't have a car. One night, a little after midnight, he calls me in a panic, asking me to come down and pick him up, because there's some kind of weird shit happening, his exact words, and there's no way he's sticking around by himself. My brother isn't the sort to freak out over nothing, so I hop in the car in my jammies and head over to the high school. A little background is needed here. As children, my brother was apparently sensitive. He often talked about various seemingly supernatural encounters. In one very old house we lived in, he told our parents that a man would come to his room at night and tell him bedtime stories. It wasn't until we were grown up that our father told us that a distant relative had committed suicide in the same room that was my brother's bedroom, years before either of us were born, and that's my brother's description of the man matched the deceased relative. I'm the exact opposite. Nothing creepy or supernatural ever happens to me or around me. If it happened there before, it doesn't happen when I'm there, and often doesn't return after I leave. I've had enough perplexed people tell me that their ghost went away after I visited their house, or that a particular place stopped being creepy after I was there, or had someone acting crazy calm down when I talked to them, to be pretty sure that I'm some kind of natural repellent for creepy shit. So I get to the high school and my brother is standing by the front doors. He runs over to the car and tells me that I have come to make it stop. It was the sound of lockers opening and closing just out of sight. He would turn a corner of a hallway and hear a locker open and slam close behind him, or around the corner of the next hallway. We go into the school, my brother practically hanging on my arm, which probably looked hilarious, as I'm shorter and plump, and he's tall and super skinny, like a modern version of Laurel and Hardy. We walk up and down the halls, nothing happens. No sounds, no movement, no lockers opening or closing, No cold spots, no inexplicable drafts, no creepy noises or feelings. We walk down the last hallway, at which point it's getting on for 1 a.m. and I'm tired and just want to go back home. There's one locker standing ajar, and as we approach it, my brother reaches out to close it, pulls his hands back and says, "You do it." I close the locker. Nothing happens. Finally, my brother says I can go, as long as I promise to come back the next night if there's any more problems. A week later, he comes home and hands me a thank you note and a $50 Amazon gift card from the head of the custodial department for services rendered. Easiest $50 I've ever made.